Okay, y'all, One Piece 1153, the birth of Loki. Gotta say, I was really impressed with Loki before this. After this, this guy, this kid, this man, this giant is okay. I'm not gonna jump and say that Loki's Straw Hat material, but Loki's Straw Hat material. I mean, that's like he's Straw Hat material, bro. Let's bring it down a little bit. Let's talk about. Let's go through the chapter. We're gonna get to Loki, but man, it's a lot of speculation, a lot of things I gotta talk about. So let's get to it. Cover story. Kikunojo, Yamato, they're greeting like they haven't seen each other in years. Bro, it's been like a while. Kiku don't even know Yamato like that. Like, they barely spoke. Cool moment. Not much to say here. Let's get to the chapter. My favorite thing to say, and you guys have heard it before, perception versus reality. That is prevalent throughout this chapter. Even with Harald, from what we got from last chapters, like Harald was a menace. He was scum, which is true. But this derives from the fact that he came from a culture that praises things like this, that rears their people like this. So for Harald being the way that he was, you can look at it and you can try to navigate and understand it, but it's going to be very difficult to do so. You weren't raised in that culture. So for Harald, yes, scum. But it did not take much for him to conform and change. And that's when we get to Ida. Ida is locked up by humans. Ida looks like she's being sold. When I first saw that panel, I'm like, here we go. Sabaody Archipelago all over again. Then we get the perspective where Ida's like, yo, Harald, no, take me back. Because he goes, he raids them, he destroys everybody. And she's like, yo, take me back. You need to apologize. Those people actually saved my life. He's like, hold up, what? They had you like they're about to sell you. So at this point, perception versus reality, guys, if you're not seeing, this is Oda's style. This is what Oda does so very well, where I was going into the chapter like, yo, Harald is scum, but these people are scum. Look at what they're doing to the giants. And Ida, she completely flipped my perspective because she's saying, yo, the reason why I'm treated like this is because you're like this. Yo, she's spitting. But Ida is exposing Harald's inconsistencies and flat out racism, where he's calling the people dolls. What he did, of course, he did it to save her, but he killed and, well, hurt people in the process, did not care. And so she's like, no, that's not right. Even though you saved me, we need to go back. We need to apologize because those people actually helped me. So at the end of the day, it's the perspective of no matter where, right? And this is an Attack on Titan thing where no matter where you go or what you do, you're going to find good people and bad people. You can think everybody is the same based on where they came from. But no, you can find good people in the worst places and the worst people in good places. And Ida, she's reminding Harald or teaching Harald about this to understand you can't just go and destroy and pillage wherever you like. You're not the one that's receiving these consequences and repercussions. Other giants are that maybe are not from Elbaf. And for Harald, he's like, why should I care? You guys aren't from Elbaf, but we're both giants. You got to understand that, right? You can't discriminate against little people and then also discriminate against the people that are like you. We are the same. And so Ida was very imperative and integral to Harald's growth as a person, as a man giant, right? So Ida, just a very key character in Harald's life, obviously. And Ida, spoiler alert, Hiruden's mom. I mean, it wasn't surprising considering her morals and values. And Hiruden, I mean, the things that he believes in, it was clear that he was raised well and he has a good upbringing because of how he's, persecuting Loki for how he went about things and his character and his morals. So you felt like Haruden was that type, an upstanding guy, of course, with him aligning himself with Luffy. Yes, it was pretty clear. And you got to give Ida props for how she helped Harald grow. And Harald, I mean, he went through a transformation I didn't think was possible. I'm like, Kaido, maybe you need a woman in your life. Like, where's Yamato's mom? Like, what happened to her? She didn't have any influence on him. Maybe that's why he's doing all that he's doing. Who knows? But typically, there's a reason why Oda doesn't have a lot of moms in the story, because a lot of conflict would be resolved or wouldn't happen. Because from Oda's perspective, we had Oda talk about moms before, where it's just like, when moms are involved, a lot of things, like, they're fixed, they're stopped. That's why so many women in the story of One Piece, they have prominent roles and they really step into places and enforce change. I can think of Otohime, Velamir, right? You can look at the Don, like, these women, they have integral roles and they play such a key role in a lot of people's characters' development. That's why Oda takes them away so frequently. I mean, I'm just saying, they literally takes them away. Like, Oda, do you actually love moms? What I absolutely loved as well is Ida, and this is how she helped change Harald and mold him into a better person by saying, yo, you're big, right? But you just happen to be born big and strong. Your strength is a quirk of fate. It reminds me of Lion King, right? I know this is an insane pull, but it reminds me of the Lion King. I know you guys remember when Scar turned his back on Mufasa. Mufasa's like, don't turn your back on me, Scar. And he says, no, Mufasa, it's you that shouldn't turn your back on me. He's like, is that a challenge? He's like, oh no, Mufasa. When it comes to our family, I got the brains. But when it comes to strength, I'm at the shallow end of the gene pool. I remember way too much of that. Either way, for Loki, or for Harald rather, you just happen to be born strong and you are celebrated for it. And this is the tough part. And it takes a while to get to this place in life and the understanding of it. There are things in life that you necessarily didn't earn that ends up being valuable to a lot of people because most people don't have it. Insane strength is one, beauty is one, even height, right? Just things you're blessed with from the gods, a quirk of fate, or from God, a quirk of fate. And at the end of the day, it's valuable because it's not much like it. I've said this before in One Piece, beauty is a currency. Or in life, it is a currency. And for Harald, he is using that and he's enforcing his will on others because he's like, yo, I'm this way, you're that way. I was made to dominate you. Ida's bringing it into perspective that what if you were on the other side of that? And it could have been that simple where you could have been born weak. And so perspective, perception, reality, all very important. And I like how this chapter brings it all into focus. And I'm really happy that I got to point it out. You know what I mean? Really happy. So in just a short time, Ida, through her actions as well, helped Harald realize where he fell short. And for her, she was changing him and affecting his heart in a way where he was starting to care about the people. And in short order, he was bowing before a human king. For Harald that we met, I mean, it's a short time, but from what we can tell, would never do any of this without Ida. And he came to appreciate humans because of their little hands and how they did things, their spices, their clothes, their construction. It's like, man, we could learn a lot from these people, in which I can learn a lot and I can take that back to where I'm from and that can help our people. So he starts to understand the power and the influence of just working with other people and building with other people and just doing it in a way where like, yo, it's barter, right? And we're learning and gaining from each other. Through that process, both our countries or wherever, they thrive in different ways. And Harald, I mean, he's growing up before our eyes, right? And when you go back, they mention him and Dory and Brogy, which is a good call, good callback and good knowledge to know that they basically grew up together. But something they said about Dory and Brogy was like, yeah, but they were always kind of different. They always treated humans honorably. Like they were different. They were good people for whatever reason, right? And so it's crazy that Dory and Brogy, they were good people, but they couldn't even influence Harald. But Ida could, right? Women, if this doesn't teach you anything, you need good women in your life. You need a good woman in your life because Harald had women in his life and things definitely took a turn. I love the change though, right? Where Harald goes from pillaging, taking whatever he wanted, imposing his will, his quirk of fate on everybody else, and now taking everything he's learned, looking at the bigger picture, understanding how he can help his people, and trying to impart that knowledge on the people around him. Of course, some people are pushing back, saying, I hope this is just a temporary thing. Yeah, Jarl and those guys, they're like, well, all right, it looks like we're in for a treat. And of Ida, she's saying, Elbaf is blessed to have a king like you, because Lord knows there's so many kings that know the right way to go, and they still look past it, they still ignore it, saying, no, I don't care, this is how we're going to do things, and they get drunk on power. Seemingly nobody had more power than Harald, and he still saw Ida for what it was and adopted her principles. Harald, you have my props, you have my kudos, you have my respect, because man, now my whole thought process of what happened and how he betrayed the world government, I have to rethink it. Because he talks about the world government, right? And he says he got blocked by the world government again. And now I'm thinking, blocked by the world government, I'm thinking that he was trying to negotiate and build with other countries, and they blocked it unless Harald would go under their rule, because he was saying, why can't countries just be free? So I'm assuming they wanted to bring Harald in and Elbaf and bring him as a official member of the world government. But of course, we know what comes with that. You have to abide by their rules, but also you get taxed, right? And your people, it puts them in a very precarious position. But for the world government, they gain a very strong country. They gain that military. And so for Harald, he's in between a rock and a hard place, because he understands the benefit and just how much he can gain from the rest of the world. But he knows like he has people, and even not just the people, other elder statesmen are saying, no, we're not doing this. And so Harald, I mean, his head, man, he's just, yo, what do I do? He's like Simba looking up to Mufasa. Yo, where you at, man? I need help. Not sure why so many Lion King references are coming now, but they're there. Ida gets pregnant with baby Hyruden, and of course, he's at a place where he's ready to marry Ida. And there are some shadowy figures that are part of, obviously, Harald's council. And they're like, no, only pure blood can be permitted within the royal family. Only pure. And so Ida, she takes it in stride. He's like, yo, forgive me. Culture, it is strong, and they do not take keenly to things like this. And Ida, she's like, it's cool as long as Hyruden is close to you. It's a tough situation because it's somebody that he chose, but of course, because of his duties and his position, he can't be with this person. We've seen this Disney story time and time and time again. Only thing I didn't like is that Harald, he conformed, but he was doing what he felt like was best for his people. And that's how he grew as well, where Harald, as strong as he was, he didn't just say, yo, screw it, I'm going to do what I want to do. He's still abiding by the rules and culture of Elbaf. As much as he's changed, as much as he understands what he wants to do. He had a baby with Ida, but he's still doing what he has to do. And he was a victim of duty, which a lot of kings and people in power, monarchs, they become that because they feel like they are slaves to their country and to even some to culture. For Harald, it's the same thing, even though he had grown so much. I wish he had fought against it a bit more. And of course, this is the beginning of his story for the most part. We're seeing bits and pieces, but I am really impressed with Harald. I don't want to be or sound like I'm disappointed in the character because the growth has been so astronomical considering where he came from. He gets nothing but kudos in my opinion. Things took a turn, especially when Istrid shows up. And Istrid and Ida, they couldn't be more different. Ida is probably not the best looking woman, but she had a pure heart and just an amazing personality. Then you have Istrid, who was drop dead gorgeous, but a piece of crap, the worst of the worst. Even in the chapter, it talks about people that suffer great misfortune. Typically, they don't have the love of their mother. For a lot of people, you can understand that, considering just what your mother means to you. And so Istrid, she was a piece of crap. I think even when she showed up to the castle and her trying to change everything and dictate everything, and Harald, he just, he's just doing, again, what he thinks is his duty and what he thinks he should do for his country. And I feel sick for Harald because this is not who he chose. And they brought just the absolute worst of the worst for him to lay beside. And she gets pregnant with Loki. So again, Harald is not only trying to improve Elbaf, he's also trying to improve the rest of the world. Right, where he's saying Elbaf has advanced navigation techniques, which made me think of just Nami and how she can benefit from being in Elbaf now. Of course, there's a lot going on, but Elbaf and Harold's influence, he's trying to help the other country, much as he's learned. And they talk about Fishman Island. And he talks about like a baby being born by the name of Neptune. Of course, that's King Neptune. He says not only was Fishman and Merman around, it was sea creatures, right? So he's talking about a sea beast. And what I'm thinking about was Neptune a part of the prophecy where it's like, well, okay, Neptune, this is the father of the sovereign that we've been waiting for. So of course, Neptune has to be born before Shirahoshi is born. So I'm like, are we going to get some information on that at some point? So that was really cool to see. But Harald, man, he became just such a sponge and absorbing knowledge, and he's passing it down, right? And he's imparting knowledge. And we saw the portrait of Harald, and he looks completely different than the person that we see now, because the person in that portrait does not reflect the man that Harald has shown himself to become in this flashback. So there's been a period of time that Harald, it seems things have soured over time for him. And of course, Loki was calling him a government dog at that point. So I wonder, what did they do and how did they try to control Harald based on what they knew he wanted, which was to have his country work not exclusively, but openly with other countries so that not only can Elbaf improve, but the rest of the world can as well. So it seems like the world government knew what he wanted and took advantage of it, and more than likely took a hostage or somebody so that they can use Harald, so they can use Elbaf. Harald, for whatever reason, or we know the reason, he cares about Elbaf, he cares about his people. He used the world government and whatever they were doing against them, and things blew up in their face. Now, we can't forget about a panel where Harald is telling Loki and Harald that he wants them to unite Elbaf, which makes a lot more sense here considering what happened with Ida, what happened with Istrid. And so Harald was a good man, right? He's a good man, Savannah. And I think you see the growth, you appreciate the growth. Now, where's the fall? The fall is going to happen in some way, but it's going to be influenced. That's probably what comes next here. You know, we're on break. But before we get to that, there's more to talk about because we haven't even talked about Loki yet, who I don't think I've ever been more impressed with a kid in my life, other than Katakuri. This is a Katakuri walked out the womb. Okay, so Istrid, she wants to get a look or a gander at her son's face. She sees Loki. We see Loki's eyes for the first time. They're like cat eyes. They're slit. They're like a demon almost. And she loses it. Istrid. She's like, oh my God, what is this? It is ugly. It is horrendous. I'm like, the kid don't look that bad, right? The eyes are different, but what are we doing? Not only does she scorn her child, she tosses him to the underworld. And the narrator said something that was really sad, where when the Prince of Elbaf stretched out his hands, no one was there to take his small hands, and he was in tears. And we go back to the prophecy before he was even born, where they said he was going to kill King Harald. I'm like, where did he hear this prophecy? I'm like, did he hear it in Fishman Island? Was there somebody like Madame Shirley before Madame Shirley that read his prophecy? So that was good to know that he went to Fishman Island, because we know that's where that derived about Luffy and, you know, even other future events. So this chick Istrid was so turned off by Loki. She said, I'm going back to my village and I never want to give birth again. That lady, are you kidding? Some people don't deserve to be mothers, but geez, man, Loki, he took it in stride, which is crazy for a baby. But here's the crazy part. She tosses Loki down to the underworld. Loki is climbing up blooded as a kid. And something that I think some people did not even realize, it looked like Loki beheaded a bear on the way back up. So he was crying, and an animal down there. He destroyed an animal as a baby. There's been no other child. Like Big Mom did it, but she was like 10. There's been no other child that has been or seemed more impressive than Prince Loki. By golly, this boy is a beast. And so this continues, right? I'm not going to lie. If the saying is, or the prophecy is, this kid is going to kill his dad, the apt thing to do would be to kill him. And Harald didn't want that, right? Because Harald, again, he's struggling with diplomacy. That is still his child. Ida is also trying to talk to Harald and say, yo, Loki is your little brother. You should look out for him. Harald is like, yo, he's not your kid, Mom. I don't care about him. And Ida is just still loving on her son, saying, you know, even when he say awful things, it's still so cute. It's like the love of a mother, that it matters. It influences a child. But think about Loki's perspective. His mom didn't want him, threw him away, literally wanted him to die. And then every unfortunate thing that happened in Elbaf was blamed on Loki. They wanted him dead. They thought he was cursed, and he was the stain of Elbaf, as everyone said. And so he stepped into that role, and he said, okay, I'm going to embrace it. And Loki is a monster. And I'm not going to lie, considering how he is so far, even when he's talking to Harald about like his dad and what happened, there's still some good in there. How he talks to Mosa, considering his upbringing, pull him, bro. I don't care if he's walking behind the damn ship. Bring him to the Straw Hat crew, damn it. Loki. Bro, I get it. It would be forget Elbaf forever. If I'm being treated like that, and I love where Harald, again, he's still trying to unite all the giants, saying, yo, you guys are going to be responsible for bringing everybody together. I want you to unite giants all around the world. So what a beautiful chapter. Just encapsulating perception versus reality, giving us some more with Loki and understanding of his situation and what he's been through and why he is the way he is. Now I'm thinking about Shanks. Like, do you understand what Loki went through? Did they tell you? Whose perspective did you get? Why did you bring him back here? Loki, why did you leave Elbaf? Were you going after the world government? Harald, how did things go bad? What happened? Who betrayed you? Who did you betray? What was your plan? Why does Loki still respect you, considering everything that happened? Guys, I love this chapter. I've read it a few times, more than a few times, and every time I just feel so bad for Loki as a baby climbing up that mountain and knowing that your mom doesn't want you, but still fighting to survive and living as long as you have with the perception that you have, that people have about you. Shout out to Loki. Literally shout out to Loki. There's a lot more to go, but already a fantastic character in my eyes. So guys, give me your thoughts. How do you feel about Loki? How do you feel about the chapter? I thought the chapter was really damn good. Of course, break next week, but come on, guys. We're going to get around that. It's a lot to talk about, but love it. Give me your thoughts. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Follow me on Twitter at BroggDAce. Follow me on Instagram, BroggD.ace. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Would not be able to do this without you. So thank you. Thank you. If you'd like to become a patron, link in the description down below. But again, guys, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.